Austin Gomez. Okay. Man, seems like yesterday you were like a cadet, right?
Yeah.
Like, and okay, and then you're going to Iowa State. I can't believe you're out of college. You're wrestling the freaking Olympics. And it feels like you're having like a surge later in your career. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that has to do with, my environment. The environment I'm around, I'm surrounded by world medalists, Olympic medalists, champions, world champions every single day. So that's a blessing to be able to be coached by them. And, it's awesome. And then, um, I think a lot of it has to do with me not cutting so much weight anymore, moving up um, to what was 149 and now up to 70 kilos from I was down at 65. So I think a lot of it is just me just focusing on wrestling, just putting all my efforts into wrestling and not so much the weight cut. So I think that's paid a big dividends in my wrestling career so far.
Man, don't take this the wrong way, right? But you weren't in my head a guy who was going to make the team, in the states, and all of a sudden you've proven now that you are good enough, and but does it feel like going wrestling for a different country, being the number one guy, and being to wrestle around the world, maybe gave you some experience that helped you um, make so much improvement later?
100%. I think, if I were to compete for the U.S., I think there'd only be one tournament we'd be getting ready for, and that's the U.S. Open and Final X. Just focusing on the Americans. But I want to be a world champion. I want to beat the best guys in the world. I want to beat the Russians, the Iranians, the guys from Japan. I want to beat all of those guys. I just don't want to beat Americans. So I think switching countries has helped me a lot. I'm able to go to all these ranking series tournaments, and you don't really see a lot of America doesn't really send a big delegation to those tournaments, and I think a lot of them now, you got a bunch of college guys making the team and they just can't make it there. But, it's no disrespect to USA Wrestling. They're doing a great job with those guys, and, they just had a phenomenal world championships. So I think wrestling for Mexico has helped me a lot, and it's helping me grow because I just have to get ready for the ranking series tournaments. I wrestle a couple matches down in Mexico to make the team. I'm 100% healthy, no nicks, no bruises, and I can just continue to train and not have to worry so much about trying to keep my body healthy.
Yeah. When you go to Mexico, is it like Mexican nationals, and
Yeah,
what's the qualification process? How big are the brackets?
yeah. So Mexico does it a little differently, as every other country does. There's usually 3 tournaments. There's one actually next week because Mexico is part of the Central American Games that are next year. But I'm not wrestling in that. Just taking a break, and so just you got to win kind of almost every single tournament or 2 out of the 3 tournaments in order to be the guy. So yeah, that there's brackets you can have anywhere from 5 guys to 10 or 15 guys. It all depends on who kind of shows up. So yeah, I mean, we just go down there and usually Mexico City, but they're starting to put them all over Mexico now, which is awesome. Just being able to travel all over Mexico has been I'm super grateful for it, just to see you know what Mexico's really about, and kind of where my family comes from. So it's
Yeah.
kind of awesome.
What's the toughest match you had in the qualification process in Mexico? Did you have any like, or was it all kind of text and
Yeah, it's
lopsided?
they're usually all techs. I think one of the first times I wrestled 65 when I was down there, I think there was this guy. His name was Brandon Diaz. He's a little bit older. He was kind of that main guy in Mexico, and it was my first freestyle match in like 3 years, and he front head pinched me a few times because I just wasn't used to defending the front head pitch a couple times, and the crowd went pretty wild because they obviously knew who I was, and I was
Uh-huh.
just some American trying to make the Mexico team. So, we've had to prove our way down there. We weren't taken in with open arms right away. So we were fighting, Mexico wrestlers not wanting us to be on the team, and I get it. We're going down there and taking spots away from them, but I'm a Mexican citizen. I have a right to be down there, and I'm a U.S. citizen. I have the right to be here too. So I know there's a lot of trash talk about you know guys who represent different countries training in the U.S., but I'm a U.S. citizen. I can be here anytime I want. I can live here. I can train here. And I think that's just proves what Cliff King Wrestling Club is doing for us, helping us out, but also helping out their college guys, because that's the main reason why we're here, is to help out these college guys. We're just grateful enough that we can still train and compete while having an RTC.
What is the Mexican team like? I know Roman's on it, right? Do you guys travel as a team? Do you go there as a team, and and how many people are on the team?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I'd have to go down there because I went about a year and a half without Roman being on a team. So it was just me and my sister kind of just trucking along down to Mexico. We'd have to travel. We'd have to go down to Mexico and travel with the Mexico team in order to kind of get our trip paid for. But, we've taken a lot of the financial burden. We've just to train here and fly here to all the tournaments that we go to. And, we have to support that ourselves. So Mexico doesn't really take care of a whole lot, which, for us, it would be nice if they did it, but they don't. And we knew that was kind of a thing that could happen. So it's kind of just, we fundraise money. Luckily enough, I'm connected with the NYAC. So NYAC's helped me out a little bit, which is very nice.
Yeah. Okay. How about just at the training as you get older? How much has it changed? How much is on your own, and how much is somebody running you through practices?
Yeah. So I'm a guy that's always been. I like a coach running me through practice. Yeah. I know I can do it on my own, but it's just a little bit different when there's somebody on you or when you're in the room working out. Yeah, I mean, training's kind of been the same. I've been lifting a lot more than I have in my career, just trying to get big for 70 kilos. That's what this whole past year leading up to World Championships was about, was just trying to get stronger and bigger. And I did that, and then just keep on doing it, because for 2028, I plan on going up 74 kilos just because 65 kilos is too much of a weight cut for me now.
Yeah. What do you eat to get bigger? I'm sure it's not cake and chips.
No. Well, my wife was just pregnant, so for the past 9 months I'm a snacker, so she kept some snacks around the house, and I didn't have the best diet, but when it was time to lock in, I was locked in. It's just keeping it simple. I'm eating a lot more, just smaller meals throughout the day, eating 5 or 6 times a day. Just
Steak,
chicken and rice, eggs, protein, a lot more protein shakes. I have about 2 protein shakes a day when I'm training hardcore. So just trying to keep my body fueled up, because I walk around probably about 170, 172 now. So, when I'm training hard, I can get up there. I think the highest I've been so far is 174. That was probably about like a month and a half before the World Championships. I was like, yeah. I got pretty big. But, yeah, just keeping it simple. I mean, just trying to I thought it was going to be harder, but, I think I just put on a lot of muscle, and it was really good for me.
Yeah, you look a little bigger. 163 is the weight, right? 74 kilos. What would you like to walk around at? Like, how big do you want to get? Just like
I think I don't want to be too big and not have to cut a bunch of weight. I just want to focus on wrestling. Right now, we're working on getting my legs and my butt bigger. Working on upper body still, but I think maybe a couple more pounds, not too much. I think especially now it's a 2-hour weigh-in. Just just not trying to get too big. Just trying to stay fresh and stay ready, because 2-hour weigh-ins, I can catch those guys that are cutting a lot of weight, and just put my gas tank on them and get to them.
I want you to think about in the last, I don't know, year, how long you want to go, really, matches where you everything just works, right? Matches that just bring out the best in you, right? I'm sure it happens sometimes where you go out there and everything's just clicking for whatever reason. Can you maybe think of a match or matches like that and try to figure out what are the factors around it that led to that, right? I don't know, the way you warmed up or the way you were feeling, or
I think recently, I think it had to be my match against Musakayev, where everything just not necessarily clicked, but all the work I've been putting in kind of just showed. I know Musakayev wasn't the same wrestler. He's not the same wrestler at 70 kilos and he is at 65, but just to beat a former world champ, in the way that I did, he doesn't lose a lot of 10-0 matches, and just I think everything just coming together. What I work every single day with KJ, with Daringer, Bormet, Trella, Dave, just everything that I've been working on, the work I was putting in, I think that match kind of showed, that I do belong at the highest stage. I can beat world champions. I mean, just at the world championships, I was right there to beat Kapainov from Kazakhstan, and I stopped trying to score points, and I ended up on a short stick. So, um, I'm there with the best in the world. I consider myself one of the best wrestlers in the world. I just got to go out there and prove it. And I think this upcoming year, I'm ready to prove that.
I feel like at that level, people are typically just refining techniques. Do you ever find yourself like adding a new kind of like bigger skill, right? A move or a bigger skill, or are you mostly just like refining and working setups and the little points in between moves?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's not necessarily learning a bunch of new skills, just making some tweaks here and there, some refinements. Just I watch a lot of wrestling, so I'm able. For me, I've always been a guy that can watch wrestling or watch someone on YouTube or FloWrestling, whatever it is, and I can go and try and hit it in practice right away. I've always been able to do that. I think for me recently it was just picking up my hand fight and getting to my underhooks more, and getting to my leg attacks. I know everybody knows me kind of as an upper body wrestler, but I think a lot of people forget how good my leg attacks really are, and they kind of just say, hey, you're wrestling Gomez, just no throws. Well, you got to defend your legs against me too. And I think that showed in my Bryson Donia match on the Night in America card in Iowa City. Just, everyone thought it was going to be a high-flying match. There's going to be a bunch of throws, but I stuck to my leg attacks, and that got me the tech fall. So I think just doing what I do best, and that's get to the legs. When I try to throw people, that's when I put myself in danger. And I think that happened with my NCAA final match with Caleb Henson. Things got weird, got wild, and if I just stuck to my leg attacks, I could be a national champ. But I didn't. So I think just trying to stick to my leg attacks, get to my leg attacks, and just keep doing that, and I'll be all right.
Man, like the finals, right? Obviously it's a big deal. National title's a big deal. Is that something you think about? Does that stay with you? Whatever, it's in the past, or something that pops in out of your mind every once in a while?
No, not really. It's in the past. I mean, right when it happened, I was upset, cried for like 5 minutes, because my dad told me when I did decide to come back and take my last year, I told him, I want to be a national champ, and he's like, just think about how upset you're going to be if you don't win a national title. And I was upset for 5 minutes, and then I threw it in the back of my mind because now it's time to go. At that time, it was time to go put all my efforts on the Olympic Games, because I had the Olympic Games to get ready for. So I had something bigger to look forward to. You take your loss, you learn from it. But yeah, man, just that. I don't think about it a lot, but it motivates me. Hey, I'll never be a national champ, but I have the opportunity to go be a world champ and Olympic champ, because that's what I really want. I've always been a big freestyle guy. I've never liked folk style too much. That's why I didn't take my last year at first, is because I wanted to put all my efforts into freestyle. But yeah, just put it in the past and look forward to the bigger and better thing.
Heck yeah. Looking forward. Good segue. Like, do you know when you're going to wrestle again? What your wrestling this year might look like, or overseas, domestically?
Yeah. So the next one I'll be wrestling on the Real American Freestyle card in November.
Okay.
In Chicago, which is nice. Hometown boy, and
yeah.
I'll be wrestling another hometown boy, Austin O'Connor. So we have a lot of history. 2-time national champ, North Carolina. Just we grew up wrestling. We've probably wrestled each other at least 20 times, from when we were 4 years old all the way up until high school. He was part of my dad's club at one time, so we were teammates, wrestling each other every single day at one point. So I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be awesome for the people, the wrestling fans in Illinois. Just seeing two guys who have cemented themselves, I think, in Illinois history, wrestling history, just be able to go put that show on in front of the back home. And then, right now, just other than that, just taking the rest of the year off, taking care of my baby boy and my wife. We just had a baby boy 4 weeks ago, so that's such a blessing. And then, just start hitting those ranking tournaments starting next year, and then just get ready for the World Championships again.
Yeah. You would 20 times you wrestled Austin, back and forth, O'Connor.
Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Okay.
You know, it's crazy. We always had crazy matches. You know, we'd always end up at the same little kids tournament in Illinois, and you know, we'd always end up in the same bracket.
Yeah.
So we've wrestled so many times. It was crazy. You know, and then eventually we became teammates, and he made the switch over to my dad's club. And it was just iron sharpened iron, man. Just he is one tough kid, and you know, it was awesome to be able to wrestle him when we were little. Because looking back on it, it's like, look where we are now, and we wrestled how many times when we were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old up until high school, and now we get to wrestle again. So we're excited about that.
Lastly, just give me like your dad. You got a 4-week-old. One anecdote, one story, one thing you've learned. It can be funny, it can be serious, it can be, you know, baby pooped over you, whatever it could be.
Yeah, I mean, it's different, right? Having to train and having to take care of a kid, and my wife too, who's still recovering. So it's awesome. It's been the biggest blessing in my life. You know, I think it's made me hungrier to train and go win. You know, try to be a good role model for him and be like, hey, my dad's Austin Gomez. Look what he's done. You know, so just trying to do the best I can for him and my wife. And then, you know, I mean, he's pooped and peed on us so many times. I can't even count, you know, it's just, yeah, I hate waking up. My wife's probably going to watch this because I'm a heavy sleeper. So she wakes up a lot of the time. But, you know, for instance, this morning I was up at 5 a.m., you know, feeding him a bottle, and I was just sitting there like already falling asleep. And I handed him over. I was like, "You gotta take. I'm gonna fall asleep."
Yeah.
I gave him to him, and I was out like 2 seconds later. So she gets pretty mad at me at that. But you know, I'm trying to do the best I can, because I've always been a heavy sleeper. But yeah, man, I love being a dad. It has been the biggest blessing in my life, and you know, I can't believe it's been 4 weeks already, because they really do say it flies by, because it feels like it's flying by.
Wake up tomorrow, soon be 14.
Yeah.
Cool. Austin, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Go blue.
Thank you.